Title: The Call That Changes Everything. Introduction: A moment of reflection. In today's hyper-connected world, how often do we stop to reflect on the simplest of connections? How often do we recognize the profound importance of answering, truly listening, and being present for the people around us? This book isn't just about missed calls, it's about the stories, lessons, and emotions carried through the act of calling and being called. It all started with a simple, innocent question from my 5-year-old daughter, Princess. Why do you always pick up calls, but people don't pick up yours? Her words struck me deeply. It was a moment of pure, unfiltered truth that only a child could deliver. And in that moment, I realized how much my life had been shaped, both positively and negatively, by the calls I've taken, ignored, or missed altogether. Chapter 1: A question from a 5-year-old. Children have a way of holding up a mirror to our lives. Princess's question wasn't just about phone calls, it was about priorities, relationships, and the silent sacrifices we make without realizing their cost. Her question forced me to examine my habits. Why did I rush to pick up calls from work or acquaintances while ignoring personal calls? Why did I allow others to set the terms of my availability, often at the expense of my own peace? Chapter 2: The Weight of Guilt. We've all missed calls we wish we hadn't. For me, some missed calls carry a weight that feels unbearable. In 2005, I ignored a call from a close friend, thinking, I'll call back later. The call never came again. My friend passed away that evening. The guilt was suffocating. It taught me a painful lesson: not every call is just a call. Years later, I missed several calls from my father during a busy workday. By the time I returned the call, his voice carried the weight of disappointment and hurt. It was one of our last conversations. These moments stay with you. They remind you that time is fleeting and that our actions, or inactions, shape the relationships we hold dear. Chapter 3: Navigating the Noise. In a world filled with notifications, pings, and endless distractions, how do we decide what deserves our attention? I've learned the hard way that not every call demands an answer, but every missed call deserves a moment of thought. Was that a friend reaching out for comfort? Was it a colleague needing advice? Or was it just another robocall? The challenge lies in sifting through the noise to find the moments that truly matter. It's about learning to listen, not just to the phone, but to the people and emotions behind it. Chapter 4: The Power of Presence. Answering a call isn't just about picking up the phone. It's about being fully present. I've answered calls during meetings, multitasking with half-hearted attention, only to realize later how much the caller needed me to truly listen. I've also been on the receiving end of such calls, where the person on the other end seemed distracted, and it hurt. Being present means more than being available. It means showing up emotionally, mentally, and sometimes even physically, to provide the connection that someone needs. Chapter 5: When Calls Become Lifelines. Some calls are more than conversations, they are lifelines. I'll never forget the time a friend called me late at night, her voice trembling with pain and fear. She was struggling with loss and loneliness, and my picking up that call made all the difference. But I've also been the one afraid to make the call, fearing rejection or judgment. It's a reminder that calls aren't just about convenience, they're about courage and connection. Chapter 6: The Boundaries That Free Us. Boundaries are essential, even in our relationships. Not every call deserves an answer, and not every conversation needs to happen immediately. I've learned to set expectations with people in my life, letting them know when I'm truly available and when I'm not. This isn't about shutting people out. It's about creating space for meaningful interactions while protecting my own well-being. Chapter 7: Calls That Teach Us About Ourselves. Every call we take, or ignore tells a story about who we are and what we value. I've taken calls out of obligation, only to feel drained afterward. I've ignored calls out of fear, only to regret it later. And I've answered calls that seemed inconvenient at the time, only to realize they were the most important ones. These moments reveal our priorities, our fears, and our capacity for empathy. They teach us about the kind of people we want to be. Chapter 8: When Timing is Everything. Timing can make or break a call. A friend once called me at a time when I was overwhelmed and distracted. I answered but wasn't truly present. When I called back later, the opportunity for connection had passed. This taught me to approach each call with mindfulness. Even if I can't answer immediately, I make it a point to follow up. Because sometimes, it's not about the call itself, it's about the effort to connect. Chapter 9: The Gendered Lens of Calling. Our relationship with calls is often shaped by gender dynamics. As a woman, I've noticed how often I'm expected to be the emotional anchor in relationships. This often translates into being the one who calls, listens, and offers support. Meanwhile, men in my life sometimes struggle with vulnerability, avoiding calls that might expose their emotions. Recognizing these dynamics has helped me navigate calls with greater empathy and understanding. Chapter 10: Building a Culture of Answering. A culture of answering doesn't mean saying yes to every call. It means fostering a sense of reliability and care in our interactions. This starts with clear communication, letting people know when you're available, following through on promises to call back, and being honest about your capacity. Chapter 11: The Healing Power of a Call. A simple call can change everything. It can mend relationships, offer comfort, and remind us of our shared humanity. I've experienced this firsthand in moments of pain and joy. A call from a friend after a difficult day. A call to a loved one just to say, "I'm thinking of you." These small acts of connection have a ripple effect that extends far beyond the moment. Conclusion: Answer the call. Life is a series of calls, some expected, some surprising, some life-changing. Each one is an opportunity to connect, to listen, and to make a difference. The next time your phone rings, pause. Think about what that call might mean for the person on the other end, or for you. Answer the call. Be the connection someone needs. Because at the end of the day, it's not about how many calls you've made, it's about the ones you chose to answer.